I think a lot about just the type of Disney World traveler I am, or someone who has gone to Disney World enough times that you end up just genuinely knowing what your family likes. You start to learn your kind of style of vacation, what kind of food your family likes to eat, the rides and characters that your kids like, just based on experience. Today's guest, who is a Laid Back Magic member, Katie, is one of those people. She's also Canadian, which makes her my first Canadian guest on the podcast, which I guess felt like a big deal to me that I mentioned it like 3 times during our conversation today. But Katie and her family remind me a lot of ourselves because they are vacation repeaters, where they will stay at the same resorts, eat at the same restaurants, do the same rides, not because they dislike other things, but because they've done the work of figuring out what actually works for them and their family, and they're not going to waste any time or a park day on a ride that they don't like just because people tell them that they have to ride it. And what's interesting is that on their most recent trip, she did something I really find impressive, which is stay at 3 different resorts. They stayed at Wilderness Lodge, followed by the Riviera, followed by the Polynesian Village. And there was something that she described in our conversation that I keep thinking about, which was watching the fireworks at night by herself with the kids asleep, which really just sounds exactly like the kind of vacation moment that you hope to have. So you're going to hear a little bit of everything from the packing strategy that she used for a 3-resort trip, what it's actually like to compare the Polynesian Tower to the Polynesian Village once you stayed in both, what something called Weight Magic does, and what it looks like to plan a Disney trip where you don't step foot in the park until 3 days in. Without further ado, help me welcome Katie to the podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. I'm your host, Dana Stanley, creator of Laid Back Magic. As a mom of 3, I know how tough it can be to find time to plan a Disney World trip that doesn't leave you feeling stressed or overwhelmed. That's why I'm here, to help moms like you create Disney vacations that feel even better than they look on paper. Here, we're not chasing perfection, but creating our next favorite memories. So whether you're brand new to Disney or looking to go deeper into the details, this podcast is your go-to for simple tips, mindset shifts, real-life trip recaps, and expert insights to make your trip magical and manageable. New episodes drop every Monday, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, Katie. Welcome to the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you. This is going to be a little bit different than other interviews I've done because on your last trip with your family, I feel like you hopped around a lot. There was a lot of moving going on. So I'm excited to chat about that with your different resorts. But being that this wasn't your first Disney trip, what made this trip in particular different from past trips? Like what did you want to get out of it or were excited about doing this particular trip?
I think that's a great question, Dana. And thanks for having me. I think this will be really fun to chat about Disney and what works for our family and what might help out some other families who are planning.
And if you hear her little accent, her little adorable accent, Katie is from Canada, which is another interesting thing to chat about too. Just being from Canada and going to Disney. I think you're my first Canadian on the podcast, which is very exciting.
Very good.
But go ahead.
Wonderful.
What you were going to say.
So I think the pressure's really off for our family when we go to Disney now. And I felt it especially on this trip because we're very familiar with what works for us. And I will admit that we do repeats because we know it works. We repeat resorts, we repeat rides, and we repeat restaurants. I didn't mean to make that an alliteration. It just happened. But we go back to what we know that we love. So I think going into this trip, I remember trying to do my sketch. And if we think about rides, there are some rides that are really popular for other families and you hear about them in the community or you hear about them on social media. and my family has experienced them, but we know we don't like them. And when we were doing trips, when we were first getting into Disney, there was a feeling of like pressure to do all of the popular rides because that's what everyone else does. But with this trip, I remember thinking like, and I know you love Pooh, but I remember thinking like, we don't need to book Pooh.
How old are your boys? You have 2 boys, right?
Yes. My children are 9 and 4, and they both celebrated birthdays right after our last trip. So they were nearly 9 and nearly 4, Kyle and Carter.
Yeah. I struggle with this. Obviously my job, it's like I have to do, some things I do feel like I have to, because even if I can, like in the community, I can point people to YouTube videos or whatever, people still are like, but what do you think? Like, what do you, and they want that firsthand experience of what I can say personally. So I will do things that it's almost like I know that I'm not going to like it before I even do it, but I'll do it anyway. But it is, when you've been to Disney before, especially if you know that you don't like it, there is truly, and I feel like this about restaurants too. If I went to a restaurant 10 years ago, I know that I should probably try it again to give it a more current review. But I know like in my heart, I don't like it. So I don't want to go and like spend the money. And I think if you go into that, like even you with Winnie the Pooh, once you have that in your head, you're not going to like it. So there's no point of like, and I think that about restaurants, like if I already have this in the back of my mind, because you can notice the good things or the bad things, obviously, for an experience in Disney World. But I do know the feeling of wanting to hit your favorites and just repeat vacations in general. We tend to go to the same places because it's kind of a comfy security thing of knowing what to expect, especially for your kids too. It's not like so new and exciting. So when you were going on this trip, tell us where you stayed and like how you moved around.
And this was a little bit of a journey, no pun intended, but we are a fan of split stays. And we've been fortunate that they've worked out well for us in the past. Our rooms have been ready early, that kind of thing, when we've been transferring resorts.
A split stay is when you start at one resort and then check out from resort 1 on the same day you check into resort 2 and so on, just in case people didn't know. Go ahead.
Of course. And then so theoretically, you could be without a room during those really crucial hours of the day.
I always say you're homeless.
A child to have a nap. Exactly. Yeah. So we have gambled and we've done split stays and they've worked well in the past. So we had planned a split stay for this trip. We were originally actually booked for the boardwalk for the first half of our trip and then booked for the Poly the second half of the trip.
I remember this. Yeah.
When we do split stays, we like to do a Crescent Lake resort and then a monorail resort, because our time in the parks really are short bursts of time. There is a time change with Canada. So when we travel to Walt Disney World, like my kids are up at the crack of dawn, literally. Like they're up at 6. I remember one time we went and Magic Kingdom, I think, was opening, like the actual park was opening at 8. So Main Street was open at 6:30 and my family was there. Like we can go early. So we do the short bursts. We're often there earlier in the morning. So we're really looking for those like midday breaks. And
so it has to be easy to get back to the resort.
Yeah. And I mean,
ish.
And when we first started going, my youngest was just under 2. And I remember thinking like, okay, we're going to stay deluxe because, he needs his nap. I don't want to be racing for the nap. I don't want him to fall asleep in the stroller, that kind of thing. And I said, years go by and, when he's not needing a nap as much, I mean, maybe we'll branch out and stay at one of the resorts on the periphery. Now I'm not sure that'll happen because we just love the resort so much. But anyway, so typically we will plan Crescent Lake and then move to monorail area or vice versa. So we had Boardwalk booked and Polynesian booked. Then the Walt Disney World Company announced the free dining plan for kids during 2026. So I thought, well, we've never tried the Disney dining plan before. We should add that on. It's a good opportunity. And when I started sketching our trip, I realized I really like to eat at the Riviera because we love Primo Piatto breakfast and we really enjoy Topolino's. So I ended up switching the boardwalk. I was fortunate I could find a reservation to switch to to switch our trip so that it was Riviera and then transitioning to the Polynesian halfway through. And then the next little caveat, living in Canada in January, I was really unhappy with the cold. And about 5 or 6 weeks before our trip, I looked at my husband and said, like, do you think you can go a day earlier? Like, I can go a day earlier. Like, can you get one more day off work? And we were going to save some money with the flights. Anyway, we moved our flight and we added one more night. And I couldn't get it at the Riviera. My boys love Wilderness Lodge. So we did a crazy thing and we switched our flights, came in one day early. We spent one night at Wilderness Lodge, then went to the Riviera, and then went to the Poly.
You know how I always say you don't need new matching tees to have a good time at Disney? For us, it's vintage all the way. In fact, vintage Disney tees are actually my husband's love language. And that's how I became obsessed with the online shop Wits Whimsy. Whitney curates the best secondhand and vintage Disney tees and sweatshirts so you can show up in something comfy, unique, and honestly way cooler than anything you'll find in a gift shop. Her pieces are effortless, sustainable, and my favorite part is I don't have to spend hours scouring the internet for them because she's done it for me. And there's over 300 unique pieces for me to choose from. Wits Whimsy has been such an amazing resource for me when I'm packing for my family of 5 because it's not just stuff for me, but for the dads and kids stuff too. I love knowing I'll find pieces that feel like us. You can check out witswhimsy.com or click the link in the show notes and use the code LAIDBACK to save 15% on your first order. I want to hear how you packed because I have done a few split stays. I haven't done 3. That is a lot. But I want to hear your kind of strategy for the packing and unpacking and like, did you drop your bags off and then go into the park? I'm sure it was different like for each resort, but how did you handle that?
So typically we travel with 2 suitcases between the 4 of us. And for this trip, I tried to make the first half in one suitcase.
Yeah. Did you do like almost like a nighttime packing cube for like the first night?
Exactly.
And leave
So
okay.
Wilderness Lodge, everything was just like in the top of the suitcase. Like, let's say the top of suitcase 1. We barely got into the suitcase. We just landed at the resort. We went straight to the pool. Then it was a quick bite to eat, PJs, bed. So we really didn't need a whole lot. So I'm positive because this was strategic. I only opened one bag when we got to Wilderness Lodge. I actually think we left bag 2 with Bell Services when we checked in because we knew we weren't going to need it before transferring to resort number 2. I think I posted about that in the community. So definitely strategic packing. Although I am also a laundry person at Disney World. I do laundry. I like it.
Do you do it all before you go home? My mother-in-law does all of it before she gets home. I'm not that. I like doing laundry while I'm there so that I can pack less things and like pajamas or underwear or things that get stained and I know they're going to get grimy. But yeah, she'll do her whole laundry day and then pack it in the suitcase. So when she gets home, it goes right from the suitcase to her drawer. I'm like, that's kind of genius.
I'm pretty sure on this trip, I did laundry twice.
Did you have it in the room? I didn't ask you what type of room type you had.
Not for this trip. We had studios.
Okay. So you did the laundry at the resort?
Yes. And
do they still have that like app where it will tell you when it's done?
I didn't see that, but
I need to look into this.
I wonder, I'm on the DVC side, so maybe they have the app in the non-DVC parts of the resort, those laundry rooms. So
maybe. It's been a while since I've done it at the resort and not in the room.
But when we go on our next trip, we're trying to do carry-ons.
You can do it.
Because we're going to have a 1-bedroom.
Do it.
We're going to have a 1-bedroom. So I think we're going to try less in the suitcases. I mean, even 2 is pretty good for our family of 4, but we're going to try to go even smaller. So
I've only ever packed carry-ons like since we've been married. It was almost like a prerequisite for me to marry my husband was like, I was never allowed to check a bag, which is really funny because I came from a very check bag family, like overpack. Like my mom is just the classic, like, are you moving out kind of traveler. So when we didn't have kids, I thought it was really hard. And then I had one kid and I was like, well, now I get to check a bag. And he's like, no, like, let's try to do carry-ons. And I did. And then it's almost like a challenge, you know? And I like and it's like Tetris. So then I did it with one kid, then I did it with two kids, and it was like, certainly we can't do it with three. But as the kids get older, like your 9-year-old, they can have something. So that's been like the saving grace is I do one main carry-on, which is the bigger away bag. So it is like a little bit of a bigger carry-on. Then I have my personal item. My 10-year-old gets her own tiny roll-on. 6-year-old gets a backpack. And that'll just be like the airport, like the plane ride things, just all go in one bag. And then my husband has a backpack that's like almost a carry-on size, but he likes that he can still fit it under the seat if there's no room. He gets very anxious about not having he just wants to be able to put it under the seat because they can say, oh, the plane's full, you have to check a bag. And he's like, no, not me. I'm putting it under the seat. So I think people forget like how many carry-ons and personal items you can actually bring. And I do get that it's more stuff to lug through the airport, but it's still worth it just to be able to get off the plane and leave. And then your stuff does, especially coming from Canada, like internationally too, your bags could get lost. Then you have to worry about all of that.
Not waiting for a bag. Like we've experienced that. And I think that's what we're trying to capture on our next trip is not waiting for bags, just getting off the plane, meeting the driver and getting to the resort as soon as possible because that's the priority, right? And with a 1-bedroom, having the laundry in the room.
Yeah, there's literally no reason for, especially your kids are kind of older. You don't have all the little like baby toddler things that take up room.
We're no longer bringing like a monitor with us, like all of the extra things that we brought when my youngest was almost 2.
Fans,
right?
and
exactly.
Yeah, diapers and wipes and all that stuff. Yeah.
But we were strategic with that last trip. So 2 bags, mainly tried to keep it organized. It was never perfect, right? And then like you think you have a plan for what's going to work and you have to dig into a different bag. But the other thing that I do, and I think I've done it for all of our trips, I'm quite sure. I mean, I make use of a Ziploc. I love a Ziploc bag when we're traveling. I mean, yes, you can get packing cubes. Yes, you can have wet dry bags, and we have those. But there's just something so simple about a Ziploc bag and having the kids like semi-organized. It's not perfect, right? Like I'm not planning out everything that they're wearing each day, but just to have like, if I know we're going to Topolino's and I would like them to have somewhat of an aesthetic appearance, I might have that in a Ziploc bag.
More of like the, like an experience outfit, not like a day outfit.
Exactly.
Or like we're doing afternoon tea. Well, not for the boys, but like we're going to, this specific, I'm trying to think of like things that are very themed to me. Like, cause my 10-year-old she packs herself. Like the last couple trips, she's been starting to pack herself.
That's wonderful. Good for her.
Yeah. Well, so usually I just kind of supervise, and I'll have my sketch and just let her know like the reservations and things that we're doing because she does care and she has like vintage shirts. Like she's a vintage Pocahontas. She won't wear that not in Animal Kingdom. So she'd be like upset if I didn't like give her a heads up. But this time she said that she wants no help. And I'm debating like maybe
planting some seeds.
Yeah, I don't know whether to like let her pack it all and then maybe sneak and look and make sure she has like enough. That's probably what I'll do. Make sure she has enough like underwear and like a toothbrush and toothpaste and things. We've never done like days where it's like day 1, day 2, day 3. But I do understand kids or adults wanting like that special outfit. Like we're doing afternoon tea at the Grand Floridian. It's just me and my 5-year-old. And I know that she'll want, like, she's my girly one. Like, she's going to want some type of cute outfit and we'll set that aside. So,
like, she probably won't be wearing a stitched shirt to the tea. Right.
Like, they'd be like mad at me if I didn't like give them a heads up about that. So I do understand, but I still do think that there is a sweet spot between having just like not basics, but like things that can mix and match and you can swap out and wash and then just have maybe like 2 or 3 special themed pieces so that you're not going insane in the room.
Yeah. We're repeating outfits or t-shirts or what have you on our trips. And I mean, again, that's like another plug for the laundry.
And like you said, you're never going to see these people again.
No, absolutely. You got it.
I'm curious, had you stayed at all 3 of those resorts before, or were any of them new this time?
Wilderness Lodge was a repeat, and we had checked out of there on our last trip. So it was kind of like we said goodbye to Disney World.
Back.
Yeah. And in our house, Wilderness Lodge is Mickey's Lodge, whereas, you know, the Poly was Stitch's house. Like my little guy's always just coming up with like little ways to identify the places. So
yeah, I love that.
On our last trip, we had spent some time at Wilderness Lodge and we fell in love with the Boulder Ridge pool. My children it's quiet. It's not overcrowded. There's no water slide, which actually can be of benefit, I think, in some scenarios. And the background music that they play at Boulder Ridge Pool is like an instrumental kind of soundtrack, which I find very relaxing.
Yeah.
So I think
that sounds nice.
Yeah, we had left Boulder Ridge on our last trip. So then the idea of being able to go back even just for one night was really appealing. So that was a repeat. The Riviera was brand new. We had never done Riviera. And again, I think the method behind that was that I just knew that I was going to want to use a lot of dining credits at Primo Piatto, and I knew.
So you hadn't stayed there, but you knew that you liked the food.
Yes, we had often gone there from the beach club. We would take the Skyliner. We had done Topolino's, and then we had done Primo Piatto quite a few times. My little guys, they love the breakfast pizza, and they have some of the best coffee on property at La Petite Cafe. So we've always been pretty likely to go to the Riviera on a rest day to grab some food, but we'd never stayed there. And
which is a great reminder too of like, if you think that Disney World is going to be a staple in your future, to take some time to try the food at other resorts.
Absolutely.
Or just, you know, go to the lobby, go to the community hall, community center, and just, you can get, besides the actual room, because I do think the room is very important, but you can get 90% of the feeling of what it's going to be like to stay there.
Absolutely.
By just booking like a breakfast reservation and then especially if you're going to the park after, like I love doing a Topolino's breakfast and then going to Epcot from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have in your head like, oh, this is what it would feel like to start a park day here. And you get ideas for the next time.
Yeah. So Riviera was new. And then the Polynesian, we had stayed at the Poly Tower, but we had never stayed like in the Polynesian
this was Poly
Village.
Resort. Okay.
Yes. This was in the village on the DVC side.
So I'm curious, what did you think of, I remember your tower, because that was like almost right when it opened, kind of, right? Like it was like new.
Yes, we were there in March of 2025, and I think it had opened in the December prior to that. So,
and what did you think comparative?
We really liked the Poly Tower. Yes.
Okay, you really liked it. So going back, if you had to choose, you do Tower over Village?
Yes, mainly because it's less crowded. There's less foot traffic. The Poly is a really fun resort to visit, and it's an easy spot to
you
pop
just walk over
from the TTC or the monorail, that kind of thing. There's a lot of great food there, so I think people pop over from Magic Kingdom. Our experience in the Polynesian Village it's beautiful. It was definitely crowded. There were people everywhere. The pool was really, really crowded, like the main pool on that side. Whereas at the Poly Tower, it had a more serene feeling to it. The pool there had a 0 entry, which we love. It was smaller. I feel like I am saying things that maybe don't really make sense. But again, there wasn't a water slide. Like it was really about swimming in the pool, not like running in and out of the water slide. And we really enjoy Wailulu. Again,
so
like not just best burger on property, but best burger in a lot of
places.
Absolutely. Like really, really good burger. And the rooms at the Poly Tower, I will say the theming is subtle. They're not as colorful as the rooms in the Village, but it was brand new. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Beautiful room. Beautiful room.
Well, and that's like another thing is just a newer resort.
Absolutely.
Like I love the boardwalk. I would choose the boardwalk over everything, which everyone knows. And Riviera, which was like the most new resort we have stayed at, meaning like freshly built, not renovated, but like from the nuts and bolts up, was just fresh paint, and the handles on the doors just feel new and heavy, and the sinks, and it just a newer resort. There is something to be said. I still I can't do Riviera because I don't love the Skyliner, but there is something to be said of just like a new resort and it just being crispy and fresh.
That was our experience at the Poly Tower, but I knew we wanted to stay at the Polynesian this past trip. We hadn't
My
stayed in
husband
the
loves
village.
it. That's like one of his favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but if I had to choose again, and I know my husband would say the same thing, we would try to do the tower again. The terraces are really lovely. And the time that we stayed at the Poly Tower, we were there for 4 nights. And I remember it was my goal during that trip to see Happily Ever After every night.
I love that goal.
Within the park or
Yeah.
from the hotel. And I achieved it. Our trip that time was 4 nights. And I had seen Happily Ever After every night.
That's amazing.
And it was always from a different part of the Poly Tower. So there are 2 terraces that have a castle view or a firework view that if you're staying in the tower, you can access.
And that never got crowded, huh?
No, it was beautiful. It was so nice and
that
not
sounds
crowded
nice.
and beautiful, big, comfy chairs. And then I remember I watched the fireworks one night while I was doing laundry at the Poly Tower, which is going to sound ridiculous. It was a 4-night trip, but yes, I was doing laundry. Maybe I do that to
that sounds
yeah,
nice.
I don't know if it's just the normalcy of motherhood and folding my kids' laundry. I don't know, but the laundry for the Poly Tower is right on the main floor, I believe. And then there's a green space right outside. So, while my clothes were in the washer or the dryer, I just popped out and watched Happily Ever After from the green space. And I was by myself, my kids had already gone to bed, and it was,
sounds lovely.
it was relaxing and just beautiful views from that area. And then there's another green space right by the pool on that side of the resort with hammocks and Adirondack chairs. So we had also seen the fireworks from there. So really, really lots of opportunities if you're a Happily Ever After fan to see fireworks from the Poly Tower.
Well, that's me. I need my kids to I need one kid to just get a little older so that we can go to bed a little later. And then I'll be watching it every single night. Talking about more of your park days, you are one of our few members that have used Weight Magic, which, just a quick explanation of what that is when you use Lightning Lane Multipass in Disney World, there are third-party apps that can help you get more Lightning Lanes or help you book Lightning Lanes so that you're not fiddling on your phone so much. And one of them is Weight Magic, which is a little unique because you can modify your reservations. Can it pre-book for you too, or no? You have to, and so you have to do your initial booking 7 days before.
You
your 3
book
Lightning
your
Lanes.
pre-selects, your 3 Lightning Lanes, plus or minus your single passes. Weight Magic can modify those in the days leading up to your trip. So it's not just modifications or booking new Lightning Lanes while you're in the park. I like to describe it by, the past few years when I've been planning our trips, you get a little bit of a dopamine burst when you book Lightning Lanes, right? You've been planning and then you go in and you do the booking and you can really kind of see your trip take shape. So with Weight Magic, you would get the initial dopamine rush when you booked. And then the 7 days leading up to my trip, I would get little notifications on my phone that Weight Magic had moved my return time up for a Lightning Lane.
That's amazing. Because I know you got really good return times, which, if anyone's listening and has no idea what we're talking about, Lightning Lanes can sell out. And before they do, for your park day, it kind of goes from earliest to latest. So the soonest return time you could get, let's say Magic Kingdom opens at 9, would be 9 to 10. And then those fill up. Because most people want them in the morning. Because once you start scanning into your lightning lanes on your park day, you can book more. So the earlier, the better. 9 times out of 10, you're getting more lightning lanes for your money, essentially. So unless you were like only going at night or some other extra reason, the earlier, the better. But as things sell out, people get really disappointed, especially if you're not staying on property like you were. They're booking 3 days out. So they go on their phones and they're trying to get like Big Thunder Mountain, and the first one available is 9 p.m. Or I don't know, any other ride that they want to ride. Test Track, and it's like 9 p.m. Frozen. They're like, like my kids are in bed. What am I going to do? And they think they're getting, quote, bad return times. Wait Magic, you can go in and say, change this Big Thunder at 9 p.m. to, and then what are the options that you can modify them to?
The interface website for Wait Magic, it is overwhelming at first when you first see it, especially if you compare it to other services that I've used in the past.
Because it's not an app, it's like browser based.
It is browser based. So within the browser, you create your profile, you create your party, you add the people within your family who you'll be booking lightning lanes for. There is a new booking. So that would be more applicable when you're in the park and you've scanned into your first lightning lane. You can have a new booking search running. There is a modify booking and then a third modify, and it will continue to modify until you stop it. So you can make your modify a specific window, or it will just keep modifying it to give you the earliest possible return time.
Like an ASAP?
Yes.
Like just keep getting me something sooner?
Say, for instance, you're going to Magic Kingdom and you'd really like to do Peter Pan. And when you do your pre-select, the earliest available return time for Peter Pan was 2 p.m. And that's right in the middle of a nap time for one of your family members. You would go into Wait Magic and create a search to modify a current booking, and you could select a span of time or just modify until earliest available. And that is a little bit different from some of the other platforms that are available out there.
Which one do you feel like you use the most? That modify until like forever, or the first one?
I would say they're probably equal. If I understand your question correctly, I would say most of my lightning lanes were modified like the 7 days leading up to my trip to earlier return times.
So you didn't use it too much in the park? It was mostly like...
I had my searches set up for my day of bookings. So my approach was sketch out our trip, figure out what lightning lanes were my 3 pre-select priorities for each park day. And then I would go into Wait Magic. I've used it for 2 trips. I would go into Wait Magic and create my searches. So with, thinking positively that I was going to get my desired 3 rides, but then I would create a search to hopefully bump all of those return times earlier. So I would have 3 created that were existing bookings that I wanted new. And then I would usually have 2 or 3 per day that were new bookings. So I wanted Wait Magic to look for a new lightning lane as soon as we scanned into our first. And that was usually another tier 1.
I love using that in the park because it's keeping you off your phone. Like I like setting it up. Like when I would use Standby Skipper, I would usually set it up during like a bathroom break, like literally while I was like going to the bathroom, just like inputting it, or I would do it on the bus ride to the park. So you still are on your phone, but like you get to choose when you're on your phone, because otherwise you'd be scanning into the ride and pulling out your phone, which is so lame.
And then immediately trying to book another one. So I would say the difference is with Standby Skipper, appreciate that app, used it for a few trips, was really, really happy with it. With Standby Skipper, we would scan into a ride and then I would have things set up to search, but I would still be in that app quite a bit during the day. Like not just the My Disney Experience app, but also the Standby Skipper app. With Wait Magic, there's more pre-trip planning to set up the searches. But then when we were actually in the park, the only reason I was looking at my phone was because I was getting a text notifying me that my next lightning lane was booked.
So that's what it does. It's not like because it's not a push notification. It just texts you.
Yes, it was a text. Yes.
Like your Buzz Lightyear was modified from 2 p.m. to 10 a.m.
Yes. Or a new booking.
And you're like, great.
Was found for Remy's Ratatouille.
I love the pre-trip stuff.
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, yes, it was overwhelming, especially doing it the first time. But once I got the hang of it, it really wasn't difficult. And it definitely made me spend less time on my phone when we were in the park the last 2 trips.
Because I would do that too. And I say it to my members of like, if you're not getting good times, if the app isn't giving you great times, book what you can and move on to the next park day. And because you can always try to modify it later, but there's kind of like no rhyme or reason to, like, I remember before our last trip, just kind of whenever I thought about it, I would look on the app and try to modify something a little closer. But there isn't like a good time, like, oh, if you should try to modify things, like I would try maybe 3 days before the trip because they release more for the 3-day people. But other than that marker, there isn't really like a time of day or night to go and look to modify. There's just no rhyme or reason because people are canceling or they're releasing ones. I don't really know how it works. But to have something on the back end, just always looking for it. And then have that like peace of mind, like knowing what you have and not like, oh, well, hopefully I can modify it later. And just having that done before your trip is huge.
For families who are fortunate to be returning, when you know for sure what your family's favorites are, you know, you're really locked in. Like you're really tuned in that to get it. Yeah.
Well, and it's a lot of like pressure too. I actually just interviewed my 10-year-old story on the podcast last weekend, and I was shocked. I'm actually glad that I did it before our next trip because I was shocked at, I think I know what she likes, but really hearing her say it in like an interview style, she said Millennium Falcon so many times. And I know that she likes it, but like, I mean, she probably said it 25 times of like.
Did she just like the way it sounded?
No, just like any question I asked somehow came back around to Millennium Falcon. Like either.
She was like hyper fixating.
Yes, like either.
Millennium Falcon. Yep.
It was about like memories or favorite ride or a ride she was proud of trying. She just kept saying Millennium Falcon. What ride are you excited about next time? Millennium Falcon. And I was like, okay, like need to make sure I get that lightning lane, which thankfully is an easier one. But when it's like there is pressure for first timers not having been to Disney. There's a lot of learning to do, but there's also equal amounts of pressure when you have been to Disney. Cause now the other problem is true of you do know what you like.
The expectation is there, right? That we're going to be riding Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway and
absolutely. They'd be like, what do you mean we're not riding that? What do you mean we don't have a lightning lane for that?
Totally. Totally. No, I hear that for sure.
I know you said that you don't really go for like the big trendy rides though. So I'm assuming you didn't have any issues getting what you wanted.
To be perfectly honest, Weight Magic worked so well grabbing us rides when we would park hop that our last park day was scheduled for Epcot, and we had bought multipass and our pre-selects included Remy's. And then Remy's Ratatouille was our first tier 1 that was booked for that day at Epcot, which was our last park day. But Weight Magic had done such a good job earlier in our trip that we had already done everything in Epcot.
So it didn't even matter.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up not using a Remy's Lightning Lane, which is crazy in Epcot. And we were in Epcot.
Yeah.
But we had already done the ride 3 days previous.
With a lightning lane?
Up late. Yes.
So you hadn't pre-booked Remy's for that first Epcot day?
Yeah. So our first.
But it got Remy's.
Yeah. The day that we started off at Hollywood Studios, we booked our first 3 lightning lanes there. Hollywood Studios was interesting. It was the only park that my pre-selects did not modify.
It's a hard one.
Yeah, I think so. And there's just fewer lightning lanes available in that park. So that was the only day that my return times didn't get bumped up. We had an amazing day and they were they were spaced out by 1 hour when we first booked them, and that was completely fine. But we had planned to park hop to Epcot that evening, and Wait Magic got us Remy's, Frozen, and Test Track.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So then, 4 days later, when we were supposed to be starting our day at Epcot, I mean, we went and we repeated some things, but we just didn't really think we needed to trek across the park to get to Remy's to ride it again.
No, totally.
Because we had already done it, and, it was hot and the kids were tired. We had been up late the night before. And
that's really crazy because it's hard. Did you say Frozen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's very hard to have a Frozen and Remy's Lightning Lane in the same day. And then you throw in Test Track too. It
was crazy. And we had a Guardians too. We had a single pass for Guardians that night. Like that night in Epcot was just extraordinary. So I think that was why our quote unquote Epcot day, we kind of felt like, well, we kind of filled our Epcot cup a couple evenings ago.
Like
we're right.
Good. Well, and I love Remy's, but I don't know if I would have to ride it again, depending on where I was in the park. It does kind of feel far.
Yeah. I mean,
it is far, depending on where you are.
If you're at the front of the park and you're only going into the World Showcase to do Remy's, it's a bit of a trek. And yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the first time we've ever like let a tier 1 Lightning Lane just kind of like slide through our fingers. I'm sure I modified it to something in Magic Kingdom because we park hopped to Magic Kingdom that evening.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember thinking like, wow, like
somebody else was
like,
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Make someone else's day by freeing up that Lightning Lane space.
Yeah. So looking back on this particular trip, what were your top memories? Because I know you like the chill, being relaxed vibes. Like, did you have a moment, like maybe at the resort this trip, that you were like, okay, this is the life?
I do love the resorts. I'm very impressed with the grounds, the music, the cast members. I love like the hotel spaces. I love finding quiet corners. I think something that I'm learning as a mom is to be more kind to myself and taking some moments for me. And I often do that at the resorts. So at Wilderness Lodge, one of my favorite memories from the trip, it was the first night we arrived. We were staying in Boulder Ridge, which is the DVC side. The kids were in bed, and I just took my book and sat in one of the rocking chairs by the fire in the little lobby of Boulder Ridge and rocked, and the fire was crackling. And to be honest, it was rainy the day that we arrived. We didn't care though. Like I have beautiful like photos and videos of the boys swimming in the rain at Boulder Ridge, but I really liked that quiet time. That was wonderful. And then at Riviera, I spent some time at the quiet pool by myself, which is not something I've done on previous trips. So again, like I had my book, I was at the pool. So I think like reminding yourself that if you have the opportunity to slow down and really treat this like a vacation, I think that can be helpful. Previous trips, I feel like my husband and I, in a way, have been hesitant to split up, right? Like to take one child one way and another child the other way, or even for one parent to take both children and the other parent to have a break. But we're getting better at that. I think as a mom as well, like, especially I work full time in my regular life, and I do a lot of evenings and weekends. And so I'm not always home with my kids. So when I'm with them, or I have the opportunity to be with them, sometimes I feel like this pressure that I have to be with them the whole time.
But well, and it's smart. I've never thought about doing something on my own when they're in bed. 'Cause usually kind of back to it's hard on one of the parents. And like for me to do something on my own, that means Colton would have all 3 kids. And if one was napping, then he's kind of like stuck in the room. So, which is like almost impossible. So right now with our season of things, it just doesn't really work. I will do like, I'll take one kid, makes it a little bit easier, but I haven't thought about after they go to sleep and just slinking out.
Well, and to be honest, I think this probably works best on rest days, because on a park day,
You're in bed.
When they go to bed,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm often going to bed too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so tired, right? But on some of the rest days, I was more apt to, tackle bedtime with Nathan together. We'd get the kids both down. And he was better at this in our earlier trips, that he would go out and he'd go for a walk, or he would pop over to Disney Springs and I would stay in the hotel room, either asleep or reading my book, in the dark. And I think
it's amazing how easily.
That was what I needed during that season.
It's amazing how easily it comes to men, isn't it?
Yeah, it really, but this past trip, I think I gave myself a little bit more space to, and I think just acknowledging to myself, like, Katie, how much you love the resort. So, the kids are asleep. Nathan's relaxing on the deck.
Yeah.
Like, he's checking the scores. He's watching the game.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
Go for a walk, watch the fireworks, read a book, go for a night swim. You're
going to love the 1-bedroom.
Yeah.
On your next trip.
We're looking forward to that for sure.
You're really not disturbing anybody.
Yes.
You might not even feel like you have to leave because you have like your own room. And where are you staying on your next?
So for our next trip, we're doing a split stay. Yep. We are actually doing 2 nights at the Car Suites, which I went back and forth, but we're going to do 2 nights at the Car Suites. We've never even been to the Art of Animation Resort. So I think just exploring the resort is going to be really fun. And the Car Suites, I mean, my kids will get a kick out of that for sure. And then we're doing 5 nights in a 1-bedroom at Boulder Ridge.
Awesome. So you'll be back at that pool.
We're going to be back at that pool. And it's going to be June, July, and it's going to be wild and hot. And
you need that.
We need the really nice
time.
pool. And I think the extra space to kind of spread out when, it's too hot to be outside or too hot to be at the park. And
well, yeah, you can kind of like a studio is hard to just hang out in the room, but a 1-bedroom, you feel like you can hang out, watch a show, get some lunch.
We have experienced a 1-bedroom once. We've never booked it, but we were pixie dusted to a 1-bedroom once.
Where was that?
At Boulder Ridge. Oh,
that's funny. Oh, so you know that you're going to love it.
Yeah, I think, well, to be honest, when it happened that time, we thought like, oh, like Disney's just like dangling this in front of us and they'll think we'll want to book a 1-bedroom from now on. But we held fast and we kept doing studios. But then, we had a bounce back offer for this trip and the price of a 1-bedroom was really reasonable. So I think bounce back offer in June, we just lucked out. And
that's why I end up renting DVC points, because it ends up almost being the same as booking through Disney with a studio. And then I can justify it a little bit. I think I've always had a kid that's napping. I have yet to, we went to Disney pre-kids, but for 10 years, I have not visited without a napping child. But I know that day is coming. That's going to be very strange for me. I'm not going to know what to do.
I mean, my children are 9 and 4, and I mean, the 9-year-old crashes from 12 until 2. He sleeps. I mean, he
does sleep.
Yes. He
That's
totally
awesome.
crashes. I mean, he probably isn't in and then the 4-year-old, I mean, he definitely has a good sleep. And I mean, we're on a different routine, right? We're up later than we would be at home, and the time change.
Yeah.
And we had one really awesome night on our last trip. We did something unique that we've never been able to do as a family before. We saw Happily Ever After from within the park. It was our first time as a family of 4 seeing it together in the park. We had seen it from the beach. We'd seen it from the Polynesian.
It's a totally different experience being in the park.
And it wasn't even planned. Just the kids were hanging and they were doing great that evening. And, the weather was perfect. And I remember just kind of looking at Nathan and saying, should we try? Should we stay? And it was a really, really wonderful experience.
Was that this time?
That was this past trip. Yeah. Yeah.
Aww.
Our first time. And
that's very special.
It was. And my older son had seen Happily Ever After once before. Just he and I had done it. But my little guy had never seen it outside of a YouTube video when I would try to stir up interest at home, showing him the shows from YouTube. But yeah, it was really, really wonderful. And we didn't scope out a spot an hour in advance. Like it was nothing
just
well
spontaneous.
thought out.
Yeah.
We just happened to be rolling through Tomorrowland and trying to decide, like, are we going to turn left and go down Main Street and go home, or are we just going to find our way into the hub? And we did. And
is that where you watched it from? You just pulled up a spot?
We just found a spot. Yeah, it was wonderful. So, I mean, we were just fortunate that it all worked out. Now, the next morning, I mean, I feel like we paid for it. My kids were really tired. They're just not used to staying in the park for the fireworks. But it was still like completely worth it. And I am nervous for our summer trip because, of course, fireworks are even later in the summer. So, and Fantasmic is late. I know. And my little guy loves Sorcerer Mickey. And I just don't know.
Well, just make sure it's after, make sure you do like a rest day after that.
Yes.
And then I can sleep in and chill.
Yep.
It's the late nights with the early mornings back to back that really get people. But you're good. You do
too much.
You do rests like in between your park days.
We do. Yeah. And I mean,
this trip at least.
We have just found that works really well for us. If you can incorporate the rest days. And like I had said at the beginning, I think there really is less pressure for us right now to do it all. We want to do our favorites. And one of my favorites is to be resting at the resort.
I love that.
And
I love that so much.
I plan the trip, so.
Yes. And you get to.
I mean, our last trip, we didn't even make it into a park until day 3. And that was planned, right? Like,
yeah.
But I remember like the kids kind of like looking at me like, when are we going to go on a ride? And I was like, tomorrow, day 3, we'll get to a park.
I mean, it's not a bad idea, to be honest. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and it was helpful for you, it would mean the world to me if you'd write a quick review. Your reviews help more moms like you find the show, and I read every single one of them. Seriously, thank you in advance. You can find me on Instagram at Somewhere Worthwhile, and I'd love to hear from you there. DM me if you have any questions about this episode or what you'd like to see in future ones. Until then, keep planning for your next favorite memory, and I'll see you next time.